Well, welcome viewers. Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales, Australia, and I've decided to, as far as I can, rerun the Australian Royal Commission videos on the channel. I just don't want people to forget what happened back there. Obviously, the Jehovah Witnesses are pretty ignorant of the Australian Royal Commission. So I'm going to do everything I can to try and run these videos. It's going to be lengthy, but I want to open it with Barbara Anderson's Watchtower documents. I'll put the link below. The Australian Royal Commission by Barbara Anderson. An Australian Royal Commission held formal public hearings to examine evidence about child sexual abuse within religious and charitable organisations in that country, in Australia, in my country. There are over 30 of these ongoing investigations involving a large number of religions and charities. Each public hearing examined a number of individual case studies involving different public and private organisations. Jehovah Witnesses were among the religious organisations being investigated. The Commission wanted to know specifically how Jehovah Witnesses and the Watchtower Society responded to allegations of child abuse involving members of their congregations. In 2015, the Royal Commission's public hearings involving Jehovah Witnesses were scheduled and heard in Sydney starting on Monday, July the 27th and continued through to August 14th, 2015. The intent of the hearings was to investigate the actual practices and policies of the Jehovah Witnesses and Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Australia Limited in situations of reported and suspected child abuse or endangerment. Following up hearings were scheduled for spring 2017 to review the Watchtower of Australia's policy changes and plans for corrective action. 2017. On March 10, 2017, the Commission held follow-up hearings to hear the Watchtower representatives' descriptions of any corrective actions taken by the Australian branch of Jehovah Witnesses over the past 18 months. More than 5 hours of sessions, the Commission was not satisfied and clearly disappointed with the testimony and voiced their displeasure with the efforts and official responses by the Watchtower branch representatives. Now that's serious. You can follow this link if you want to hear the hearings. And I'm going to put these hearings up in this rerun of the Australian Royal Commission program. The scope and purpose of the hearings were to inquire into the experiences of survivors of child sexual abuse within the Jehovah Witness Church in Australia, the response of the Jehovah Witness Church and the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Australia Limited to allegations, reports or complaints of child sexual abuse within the church, the systems, policies and procedures in place within the Jehovah Witnesses Church and the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Australia Limited for raising and responding to allegations of or concerns about child sexual abuse within the church, and the systems, policies and procedures in place within the Jehovah Witness Church and the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Australia Limited to prevent child sexual abuse within the church. During and after the hearings, the Commission provided witness lists, transcripts, exhibits, images and associated submissions for each case study and makes them publicly available on the Commission's website. And you can go to that website yourself if you want the evidence. Submissions. After hearing, the counsel assisting the Royal Commission will provide witnesses and other people who were granted leave to appear at the hearing a written submission detailing what was discovered during the case study. The submission will outline key findings based on the hearing evidence and the recommendations likely to come from them. The recipients of the submission may then provide their own written submissions in reply. The Commissioners then consider this information and when they form their final recommendations during the course of the Royal Commission. In the articles below you will find videos of the live streams of the public hearings and transcripts of those hearings and complete sets of the exhibits used by the Commission that were provided by those involved in the case. Many of these exhibits have never been publicly available before. And here's some of the stuff you can see. But I'm going to go now to live footage from the Australian Royal Commission on the Jehovah Witnesses, Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, Church organisation. I hope you enjoy this series. Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.
There was information relating to reporting the matter to the authorities, but that was brought about later on in the 90s and into the 2000s.
And in paragraph 4.1 of your statement,
I don't seem to have that. Oh, sorry.
You have that. It should also be on the screen in front of you.
Oh, great.
You say that BCB's case is the only case involving child sexual abuse in which I've ever been involved. The records available to the Royal Commission suggest that there has been another case. You're going to be shown a name. I'm not wanting you to say the name out aloud because I'd rather keep it confidential, but it's to see whether that perhaps jogs your memory as to another case that you were involved in.
No, sorry.
Doesn't jog your memory? So as far as you can remember sitting there now, there was just this one case of child sexual abuse in your years that you had to deal with.
Yeah.
You were the circuit overseer, and in that capacity you were told by Max Hawley about the allegations against Bill Neal, is that right?
Correct.
And Hawley and Neal were the two elders of that congregation at that time, the only two elders, is that right?
As far as I can remember, yeah, I think that was the case, yes.
Yes, because Frank Shaylor had retired and moved back to Perth, as evidence we've heard from Mr. Hawley.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what do you recall Mr. Hawley telling you?
Well, as far as I know, is that he approached me and mentioned to me regarding the allegations that have been made, and that and then we decided that we're going to investigate it more.
And what were the allegations?
Well, I was under the impression that it was just that Bill Neal had been watching BCB in the shower. And also too, I think it was mentioning the touching of the breast once.
So that's what the most you can remember of what Max Hawley told you when he informed you about this matter?
I think that was the case, yes.
And at the stage that he informed you, what did he tell you that he had done about it up until then?
I would say that he would have investigated, but I can't remember exactly what he said.
Did he tell you whether he had met with BCB and or with Mr. Neal?
I would say that he would have met with both, yes, but I can't remember if he told me that.
And then, as I understand it, you and he resolved to investigate the matter together, is that right?
Correct.
And what did you do in order to investigate it?
Well, we had meetings with BCB and with Mr. Neal, and also others knew about it, and we also got some information from them as well within the congregation. Can't remember how many, but I know that possibly there was a few others as well.
And do you remember what information they were able to give you?
I cannot remember that, no, just the allegations that had been made regarding the watching of the shower. I don't know if it dealt with the touching of the breast or any other activity at all by him.
Because there was no one else who was a witness to these events, was there?
No.
And so you say you met with BCB and with Bill Neal. That was in a common meeting, is that right?
I can't recall whether it was, first of all, just in a common meeting or whether we met separately with BCB and also with Bill Neal. And then even collectively, I'm not sure.
And BCB says that she was unaware of the purpose of the meetings that she was attending, or what role those meetings were playing. Do you accept that?
No, I don't, because we would have told her why we were meeting because of her concern of what was happening.
Well, I'll come back to the question of what you would have told her, but dealing first with the question of what you actually remember. Do you remember anything that you did tell her? Or was it too long ago?
No, too long, I'm sorry.
So then reverting to the less safe ground, as it were, what do you say you would have told her?
How do you mean? What would I say?
Well, you started saying earlier, I would have told her about something about what the meeting was about. Now,
Well, I just said...
So you and I must try not to speak at the same time,
Sorry.
Mr. Jackson. So what is it that you think you would have told her in explaining what the meeting or meetings were about?
Well, about the allegations that she had made against Bill Neal.
That you were investigating them?
Yeah.
Yes. And more than that?
Possibly we would have told her, asked her whether these were true, the watching of the shower and the touching of the breast as well. That would be, I'd say that's what I would have said the meeting was about.
Now, you'd appreciate that in what you were doing was part of a process which is set out in the church's documents and protocols, is that right?
You're correct, yes.
And you and Mr. Hawley were doing an investigation to see whether there was sufficient evidence to establish these allegations as true, which would, had they been established, would have led to a judicial committee, is that right?
Yes, that's true.
And you were experienced in those matters, those procedural matters?
Well, it was the first situation that I've ever had where I was dealing with that type of thing.
Well, specifically child sexual abuse.
Yeah.
But you'd had other investigations in relation
Yes.
to other serious allegations of one form or another, I take it.
Yes. Yes. But nothing like that.
Perhaps adultery
Yes.
or
Yeah.
lying
Yeah, not lying, but adultery, yes.
and various other. So you were familiar with the procedure you were
Yep.
embarking on.
Yep.
And you understand that BCB would not have been familiar with that procedure.
Oh, correct.
So she would have these two men, you and Mr. Hawley, asking her questions, but not knowing how that fitted into an overall procedure.
That's correct. Although in the publications with situations like that or adultery, lying, there is mention, even back then in the 90s, of the procedures. So the publications did have a bit of information regarding what would happen.
Well, the publication you're referring to is the publication which is for elders, the Elders Handbook, isn't it?
I know there's information in the Watchtowers and the Awake relating to that. Even with child abuse, there's information there.
Well, specifically, I'm addressing the procedures to be followed,
Oh, right, sorry.
because what BCB says is she didn't know what these meetings were about or how they fitted into any overall procedure, and you would accept that she wouldn't know that.
Well, as far as I can recall, maybe she didn't. But I thought we would have explained it to her.
Well, all you've said you would have explained is that you're investigating her allegations and asking
Yes.
whether they're true.
Yes.
And she'd be left in the relative dark as to how that fitted into whether there might then be a judicial committee, what might happen thereafter, what
Yes.
evidence would be sufficient, what evidence would not be sufficient. Do you agree?
Yes, correct.
And you see that would leave her in a position of vulnerability and perhaps confusion.
Yes, I do now, yes.
And so you would accept that in investigative procedures such as this, an important component to support someone who's making allegations of abuse is to fully appraise them of the procedure and what's happening so they feel comfortable in it.
Yes, and I think that's what we've been trained to do more so in these later years.
Now, I withdraw that. So, Mr. Jackson, back to the particular meetings that you had. Do I understand you to say you're not sure whether there was a meeting that had BCB and Mr. Neil in it at the same time? Or do you accept that there was such a meeting?
I cannot recall it, but I'd say yes, there was.
Yes, but that would be the normal procedure at
Yes,
that time,
yes.
wouldn't it?
Yes.
And would that be the normal procedure even today? In other words, that someone who is making serious allegations against someone must be prepared to make them in their presence?
Well, now it's a matter of, first of all, hearing both sides separately and then maybe trying to get them together to see if it's correct or not.
Well, even hearing them separately, if you then decided as part of that preliminary investigation that there was sufficient evidence and to convene a judicial committee, you would then have to put them together, is that right? In other words, you'd have to, the witnesses, including the abused, would have to speak in the presence of the accused.
Well, yes, but not necessarily always the case. It could be that, there was convincing evidence from others as well. Yes, you put them under pressure if you put them both together.
Yes, well, that's my point. So you say if there were two other witnesses of the incident, not the person who's abused, and the perpetrator hasn't admitted or confessed, you've got two other witnesses. In that situation, you may not have to have the person who suffered the abuse giving evidence in the presence of the
Yes.
accused. Is that right? But where there isn't that situation, where there aren't two independent witnesses, then she would have to. She would have to give evidence in the presence of the accused.
Yes, I just can't remember whether we did or whether we didn't under those circumstances.
Well, you didn't, to be fair, and what you were doing, you hadn't reached judicial committee stage, and you never did, is that right? But talking generally now, even the present position is that if a judicial committee is formed, leaving aside the situation where one has at least two other independent witnesses, the victim of the abuse would have to bear witness or give evidence in the face of the accused, is that right?
Yes, yes.
And that's set out in the Shepherd the Flock of God handbook, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you yourself, I think, accepted a moment ago that puts a lot of strain and pressure on the person who suffered, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, and that's where even now we're encouraged if there's some type of support. For example, in child abuse, maybe the parents, the husband or wife, or other supports, maybe a close friend. That just depends on the circumstances.
Mr. Jackson, do you have any knowledge of the developments in the investigation and trial of sexual assault matters in the ordinary courts?
No, sorry, I don't, Your Honour.
You don't know anything about the research which has led to changes in process so that victims don't have to face the alleged abuser in the course of the trial?
I don't, but I'd say that's why our organisation has changed, where it's not necessarily doing that anymore, and that we do have a support along with us if required.
It's not a question of support, it's a question of the traumatic circumstance for a victim in having to confront their alleged abuser. You understand?
Yes.
You say that that's now understood by your church?
I'd say it would be, yes.
When you say it would be, can you point to anything that confirms that it is understood?
Well, offhand, no, I can't, sorry. But I'd say the way that now we are dealing with matters, that we must be taking that into consideration.
Perhaps you can explain it to me, how you're dealing with matters that suggest
Well,
taking that into consideration.
In a situation of child abuse, then one would have some type of support there, maybe from, not maybe, but from those sources, either friend, parents, husband, wives, and maybe we don't, because I haven't been involved with it, maybe we don't directly have that one-on-one where we used to many times. If it was just one-on-one basis of one accusation against the other.
I'm not sure I'm understanding, but the civil courts have come to understand that the trauma that can be involved for a victim in having to face-to-face contact with the alleged abuser can be a very traumatic experience.
Yes.
Does your church understand that?
I would say yes, they do now, yeah.
How would it be accommodated then if the investigation is in relation to an allegation by a woman that she was abused by a man in the church?
Well, first of all, we would, maybe two would listen to her and get some comments from her about the allegation, and then we would see the person separately and talk to that individual.
And then what would you do after that?
Well, we'd contact the branch if we felt there was those allegations were correct and were truthful, and follow the procedures. So they're talking to the legal side of the branch, and then take the procedure or take the information from them that they would give us.
When you say you take those steps if you thought the allegation was truthful, if you just have an interview with a female complainant who says she's the victim, and then follow that with an interview with the alleged abuser, would that be sufficient for you to be able to determine that the allegation was truthful?
Yes, it would.
So you wouldn't need a second witness?
Not necessarily under those circumstances like that.
So is that a significant change from some years ago?
Very significant, yes.
Yeah. And is that change relevant to sexual assault and other types of misconduct, or only sexual assault?
Well, offhand, I'm not too sure just how to answer it because I'm not aware of it, and I haven't been involved in anything lately. And I'm just not sure the material really has any, that we have, has anything relevant to that.
Yes, Mr. Stewart.
As your honour pleases. Mr. Jackson, you familiar with the manual or guide, Shepherd the Flock of God? Can we have tab 120 on the screen? And particularly at ringtail 90, that's otherwise page 89. Now this has applied since 2010, is that right?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson? And it's essentially a guide to elders, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Yes. And as to how to handle various situations. And you'll see this particular chapter, chapter 7, sets out the judicial hearing procedure. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then towards the foot of that page, you'll see further down, paragraph 2. The chairman should invite the accused to make a personal statement, and then it says, if the accused contends that he is innocent, the witnesses to the wrongdoing should be presented and their testimony be given in the presence of the accused. It is best that the witnesses give their testimony in person. And then there's...
I just haven't got that coming up. I've got 2, but not the rest.
Sorry, the next page, top of the next page. Now, there is the possibility then, it goes on, however, it may be that the witnesses live a great distance away or for some reason are not able to be physically present.
Yes.
If so, their testimony may be presented in the hearing of the accused by a secure phone call or perhaps submitted in writing and read to the accused.
Yes.
So are you saying that that exception might also be used to allow, in cases of child sexual abuse or sexual assault generally, the accuser to not be in the presence of the accused?
Well, here it's dealing with if the person lives a long distance away, but it can still, again, you're looking at the circumstances of the case and just the emotional condition of the person.
I think Mr. Stewart's suggesting to you that that's not to be found in this document.
Oh, I'm using the principle of that, though, just with your question that is...
I think he's putting to you that the principle's not there either.
No. Okay, so maybe then it doesn't apply.
Well, he'd like to know what the true position
Well,
is.
this is the position here, where it says, however it may be that the witness live a great distance away or for some reason are not able to be physically present. So that's, I can't go beyond that. But sometimes situations arise where, you know, the emotional state of the person, we try to help them as much as we can.
This document proceeds, you'll see in the previous page, I think it is, the starting point for the judicial hearing procedure is to try to put the accused at ease. You see that?
Yep, I do, thank you.
And then in the first paragraph, those words are placed in heavy type. You see that?
Yes.
There's no mention there or anywhere of how you manage the victim, is there? Or the accuser.
No, but we have had watchtowers that relate to how we need to be very conscious of the person as well. And as regards to the way that they're going through what they're going through, the emotional state.
Well, you mean that the person who brings the allegation may be suffering considerable stress as well?
Oh, sorry, no, I thought you meant the person. Yeah.
My question is directed to there doesn't seem to be any acknowledgement that the person who brings the allegation may be suffering stress and need assistance. You see that?
Yes, yes. Yeah. Well, that's correct.
Can you help me with why that's not there?
No, I can't, sorry. No.
Mr. Stewart, I think we'll come back in the morning now.
Well, Your Honour, I just had one question about this page that's open, if I might, but I'm in Your Honour's hands. That page 90, ringtail 91. Just on this question, you see paragraph 3 there. Just on this question of observers, I understood you to say that your understanding is the present position is that observers can be present to give moral support, but you'll see there this document says expressly observers should not be present for moral support. Do you see that?
Yes, yeah. Yes, but...
And this is the guide you have to follow, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But again, there have been information as regards to situations where, for example, parents, if they've been asked, they can go there through letters that we've had where we've been told that if, it is a minor, parents can be there, husband or wife, if the guilty party wants to have them there, they can do that. But again, that does say that there. I'm just quoting other information that we've had, for example, letters later than 2010.
Well, we'll come back to that in the morning. We'll adjourn until 10 o'clock.
I'll stand.
Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now. Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.